This is not a waiver of any kind. It is supplemental and cumulative, not substitutive. It is not intended as humor, entertainment, retaliation, reputational manipulation, repetitive public argument, nor as any modification of the procedural posture established.
I mean, that's just kind of how the media goes today. Like, nobody wants to be challenged on their particular stories or narratives, so they can invent their own facts and then never have those facts pressed against. I would argue the super far left people are doing it really well, and then MAGA does it really well, and lib left hasn't figured that out yet. So we're constantly trying to challenge ourselves to be better than them, and that is just shooting ourselves in the foot over and over again. But yeah, that's just the nature of how the media is working today, unfortunately.
After my last release, I have now gathered the evidence I needed in order to reasonably demonstrate the totality of the mechanism through which I've been experiencing social maintenance of non-recognition, demonstrating refusal to give clarity its normal substantive effect. The overall mechanism causing the totality of harm inflicted on me consists primarily of two major components with mechanisms primarily focused on different functions. Neither of these components directly correlates to an official government electoral party, at least as far as I've been able to reasonably discern so far. While I've already dismantled the primary component actively, aggressively exacerbating harm, the secondary component I'll be dismantling with this release is one that builds on top of that primary one in order to attempt to cause endless perpetual delay of any kind of truly unwanted consequence occurring that could ever possibly result to any kind of entity other than myself due to the existence of these efforts. Efforts which, as far as I can discern and the totality of evidence demonstrates, have been intended to ultimately lead to my untimely death in real life, after extremely brutally torturing me as long as at all possible to extract as much value out of me as at all possible, while returning absolutely none to me, as I'm simultaneously being utmost egregiously, maliciously, subversively punished, increasingly, seriously, severely, the more I've proven I'm a genuinely decent, intelligent, serious individual. Just like the primary component, this secondary component also has only ever existed entirely at my expense, entirely against my consent, and there is not, never has been, and never will be any real verifiable evidence to at all prove otherwise. But before I go into presenting video clips of evidence of others' behavior and providing documentation on that, I find it pertinent to more clearly establish the framing from within which my position should be interpreted. After looking through a few different things Destiny has said publicly on his streams in recent times, I came to the understanding that I should perhaps clarify the concept of being apolitical and what it means to me. A search for what politic means brought me to. As an adjective, politic means showing practical wisdom, shrewdness, or tact in managing situations. So politic isn't an inherently malicious or harmful thing. Searching the definition of what politics means brought me to politics is the process of making collective decisions, resolving conflicts, and distributing power and resources within a society or group. Any process at all involved is a pretty broad spectrum. So one's own politics is a lot more than just what you say. It's everything you ever do in relation to groups, institutions, or society at large. Basically anything that isn't extremely personal and more or less inconsequential to anyone other than you. Thinking about it in terms of just the official government electoral parties, or just the things you say in general in any context, is a very naive engagement with the subject, since functionally effectively influencing someone's perception means you can essentially control them to do what you want in relation to the kind of influence you have. That leads to a fundamental understanding that manipulation, whether as malicious deception, benevolent guidance, or anything in between, is essentially being political at the most fundamental level, which means being most functionally effectively political can be understood as one believing their words have a substantive, personally meaningful impact on influencing their ability to change objective reality in relation to others. Which means, based on the technical definition of the word, in reality, everyone is engaged in politics to some extent, unless you're a hermit that lives completely outside of society, out in the middle of nowhere in a forest or a mountain or something like that. And you permanently, completely isolate yourself from anyone and rely solely on yourself for absolutely everything all the time. In that case, I am actually extremely political. Everything I've ever said and done has been extremely meticulously, excruciatingly political, ever since I became a permanent chief of the Shadow Confederation about a decade ago. But I extremely heavily differentiate being political in general from being partisan, especially towards any official government electoral party. I would say I'm not partisan to anything. A search for partisan brought me to A partisan is a committed supporter of a specific cause, person, or political party, often characterized by strong, sometimes uncritical loyalty. The term can function as both an adjective, describing biased or one-sided behavior, and a noun. I'm a strong, committed supporter of myself, but even then I wouldn't say I'm uncritically loyal even to myself. I suppose how attracted I am to Kimi and Celine, and how they've chosen to respond to that, has made me a committed supporter of them in a sense, with how they will forever be my only serious, intimate prospects no matter what happens at this point. But I've always been seriously critical of them, and refused to let how attractive they are to me leave me forced to just blindly suck up to them. While I'm clearly a supporter of the Shadow Confederation, openly flaunting being the highest rank possible and a leader within it, I wouldn't say I've ever really had uncritical loyalty to it either. And I'd even say whether my support is strong is open to interpretation. Like, I'll talk about this stuff on the internet in a manner it makes sense to me to do so, but it's not like I regularly go around openly advocating for it on the streets or to random people I come across or something like that. Even from my leadership position, there are many within it who take actions they do not defer to me at all before taking, which I would not have necessarily agreed with, especially as it regularly attempts to extremely severely undermine my position. It's existed before I was even born, and many decisions that have been made since its creation, and even since me accepting being an integral part of it, are not necessarily ones I would agree with. But it's also not practical for me to complain or try to influence change every time something like that ever happens, though it regularly seems to be the case that my criticisms of many of them, across many ranks, are substantially different than what most would likely criticize them for. I tend to hold generally much more politically sophisticated perspectives than most, at least as far as I've been able to discern with any meaningful certainty. I have an extremely critical issue with being partisan, particularly in relation to official government electoral parties, which is the context the word is usually considered from. I believe that a fundamental structure is necessary for society to function. I also believe most humans are very far from perfect, and it is humans that have made all meaningful attempts to establish and enforce fundamental structure to society. Being partisan to official government electoral parties is fundamentally flawed, because you are dedicating your resources to a cause under the pretense that those who make it to official government positions within those electoral parties possess mental frameworks that are inherently vastly less fundamentally flawed than any individual with exceptional critical thinking abilities and personal principles who is not in such a position. Despite the fact that it's highly unlikely someone with an especially exceptional mental framework would ever seek out such a position rather than simply exercise broader control over society through a less pressed position of power, I would say a reasonably sophisticated mental framework should be much more inclined to favor the potency inherently evident in objective truth over a severely volatile interpretation of extremely sophisticated political dynamics present in individuals who obtain positions of official government electoral party authority. Which is not to say that any individual exercising partisanship to any official government electoral party is incapable of largely objectively sound, politically sophisticated rhetoric. It's merely highly indicative that most of such individuals are highly unlikely to be capable of substantially politically sophisticated rhetoric. Their partisanship essentially becomes brain rot through increasingly extreme deceptive identity competition. It's inherently inclined towards being destructive. I would say the extent to which it's destructive, and the extent to which it's likely to lead to them being unhappy, is highly dependent on the specific circumstances of their life, and the choices they've made and end up making. I believe it's perfectly reasonable for me to have issue with fundamentally giving my support to an identity I do not resonate with, but also not inherently believe others who support certain groups I don't particularly resonate with are deeply unhappy in their support. I just know I personally would be deeply unhappy, would never consent to joining them in that support. The consideration of the United States Constitution, the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and other referenced works within the Shadow Confederation Charter have never been an implicit or explicit endorsement, support, or any kind of partisanship to any official government electoral party. Their recognition merely demonstrates a fundamental acceptance that some kind of explicit substantive material structure must exist within which to build legal considerations, and it is not necessary for the Shadow Confederation to explicitly build or define the entirety of such foundation in order to be a coherent, functionally effective, existent, and relevant entity. That's what I've meant when I've said I'm apolitical. But since I've reached the point where it's abundantly evident that I've been facing such egregious harm from so many egregiously morally bankrupt psychopaths that they essentially seem to believe they basically can act like they're only going to be like half as psychotic towards me as they previously were, and somehow I should be grateful to them for that. I suppose I should make sure to make it abundantly evident to all of them why precisely that is entirely unacceptable and seriously severely dysfunctional before deciding if procedural escalation into formally filing for litigation is truly necessary. The day of my last release, I also left another message in the general chat of Destiny's Discord server. As part of my final attempts at avoiding procedural escalation, I have made a public podcast release involving thoroughly dismantling your and Uber Danger's presentation of dismantling the shadow government, along with thoroughly dismantling other insidious, seriously harmful behavior by Kimi and Jamie. If you fail to adequately demonstrate good faith and responsible response of some kind to reasonably preclude yourself from substantial involvement in claims I've extensively documented and prepared for procedural escalation in relation toward multiple prominent influencers for, understand I consider that a conscious escalation in harm you are choosing to cause. Do not think pushing me to formally filing for litigation will be anything like the absolute circus the lawsuit you've been publicly dealing with in recent times has been. I intend to pursue an extensive discovery process, including multiple subpoenas to social media platforms and cell carriers, with substantial evidence already gathered to reasonably present cause. If my lawsuit is one-sided, I will be the side overwhelmingly demonstrating validity to my position, not the other way around. I will not be the one attempting procedural abuse if any occurs, and I do not take the prospect of it happening lightly. I have already publicly, explicitly, meticulously distinguished procedural resolution and substantive resolution across all relevant domains. My position and resolve is unwavering. It is not possible to deter or subdue me through procedural hollowing strategies. I have also emailed you as usual as part of my mailing list. I am once again confronting you publicly in order to document and further demonstrate how serious this all is. I seriously strongly suggest you do not ignore or trivialize this. I also checked how Destiny started his stream that day.
Thoughts on my take? I see what's happening. The Starkers are terrified because you've teased a bit of insider info from their servers, and they know the manifesto is coming soon, so they've cooked up this new attack angle. I don't think they've cooked up anything. I think Connor just fucking... But I'm also not sure how much my ex is involved now. Listen, bro, I'm just sailing through life, okay? One wave at a time. I think what I said before... No, this is normal. As the court case comes to a close, I think that people will dig. Like, people are pretty desperate. Because obviously they didn't get what they wanted out of it. And then I think as when I go to drop my manifesto, I think a scary thing for a lot of these people is that nobody's ever actually put a spotlight on any of their behavior before in any like big manner. So it's like all of them are constantly kind of like poking and prodding at me. And then so you're just like seeing this, I think, kind of like kick up a ton right now as this comes to a close, hopefully. And then to try to do some kind of, I don't know if the goal is to like, I don't think the goal would be to dissuade me from publishing what I'm going to publish. I doubt it. Maybe the goal is to discredit me. I don't know. But I'm already like a fucking mega pedophile rapist, so I don't know. I feel like there has to be like, at some point, it's going to be like, okay, we've pedo jacketed him enough. We need to like murder jacket him. We got to have like, we need victims of like murders or assaults now or something. Maybe let's switch to another crime. If you had to guess, what percent do you think the drive of your backstabbing exes are driven by the community supporting / feeding their feelings about you versus the types of women you've engaged with? I think it's what I've said before. There's just been too wide a variety of people where everybody in the space that I'm in for my community, I think we all exist on like a we just like, there are so many communities that are peripheral that if you fall off of this one will absorb you immediately with just like the craziest support and then gas you up for anything.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Destiny preemptively predicting claims that will be made against him in an effort to prepare framing to attempt to later discredit such claims. He likely has already had substantial time to recognize the validity of, while he's been long neglecting to do anything substantial or adequate about the relevant harm he has been aware he has been contributing to causing. My current state of existence perhaps becomes a primary example suggesting his conscious, direct, self-serving involvement in seriously attempting to lead to causing serious physical harm and ultimately the untimely death of any individual seriously opposing him somehow. I have never had any intentional involvement with any snark communities targeting anyone. Destiny is no exception. I was never trying to achieve anything from Destiny's currently very public, ongoing formal court case. I consider it irrelevant to the actually relevant matters of focus addressed by this podcast. I've never feared the release of Destiny's manifesto at all. I couldn't care less whether it ever happens or not. I've never particularly been attempting to discredit whatever he might be saying in it either, at least certainly as far as any material in it that is not explicitly directly related to me. I don't know or particularly care if he's mentioned me at all in it to begin with. I will never tolerate being absorbed into communities peripheral to his, as people may attempt to push me out of some kind of orbit of him that I've never even been identifying with or working towards to begin with. The day after, I noticed something in how Celine started her stream.
Daytime, thank you so much for 18 months. Welcome back. Thank you. Oh, wait. Wait, no, that's not a resub. That's like a, oh my god, you've been mod for 18 months. You know what? Congrats on me. I'm mod for 18 months. Dude, it's because I have like a default setting, like the first two things. You know what I've come to realize? Wait, Wamukara, thank you so much for 10 months in a row. You know what I've realized? I don't know if it's like my like recognition of pattern or something, but when I see something, I definitely like take it and I assume to know what it is, and I like, I don't know. I don't know. I finished the sentence before I actually finish reading it, kind of thing. Wait, Spike is awake? Does that mean you haven't gone to sleep yet? Or is this like usually the time you're awake and I make you stay up extra long when I stream really late? It's 3 p.m. Oh, okay. So when I like stream for a long time, it makes you stay up really late. I see. I could never figure that one out. Yes, it's true he hasn't slept yet. Honestly, I feel like all my mods have something in common and it's not sleeping. Which is very in common with me, so maybe I'm the problem. Good morning, everyone. I was supposed to go to something this morning with Janet, and I think because of that, my brain was just like, wake up early, wake up early, wake up early, wake up early. So I woke up giga early today. But I couldn't go with her because my period has been really bad. My period for some reason has been pretty bad. And so I wasn't able to go, but like I think when you like go to sleep, like being like, oh my god, I have something to do in the morning tomorrow, like I just end up waking up early.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Celine engaging in serious deception in relation to her pattern recognition abilities, particularly to conceal her awareness of the likelihood of her being a serious aggravating factor in matters she's somehow involved in. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of her utilizing that deception, particularly through her connection with Janet, in combination with the patterns of seriously harmful, seriously deceptive behavior Kimi and Jamie have been involved in, which have already demonstrated to be causing ongoing serious harm to multiple aspects of my existence, in order for Celine to be, in effect, enabled and facilitated in attempting to cause endless perpetual delay in relation to any kind of truly substantive material recognition of the reality of these matters, and by extension any real possibility of any kind of actual resolution. Further, the evidence suggests Celine has been doing so fully, knowingly, entirely to my detriment, entirely against my consent. Any reasonable claim related to lack of pattern recognition, where there is an abundance of objectively quantifiable evidence demonstrating an individual reasonably should have recognized certain patterns, necessarily requires substantive material evidence demonstrating reasonable cause to consider how one might sincerely not have recognized the pattern demonstrated. I can believe Celine has an atypical kind of pattern recognition ability. I can also believe that it could actually perhaps make me and her exceptionally compatible intimately. If she feels happy and excited at the prospect of me sincerely finding her exceptionally attractive and actually seriously wanting to date her, I certainly don't find that unpleasant, disappointing, malicious, or somehow inherently harmful to me. I also have absolutely no hesitation to prove abundantly that I don't owe Celine or anyone else to feel or express any kind of affectionate feelings or intimate desires towards Celine or anyone else. I absolutely unconditionally refuse to repeatedly seriously consider breadcrumbing type behavior from Celine, where it's essentially bare minimum effort, where I can easily be misrepresented as essentially an obsessed stalker and delusional for connecting any kind of relevancy to these matters. If this kind of behavior is essentially the full extent Celine has any meaningful desire or willingness to clearly engage substantively with these matters, that demonstrates the interpretation of her behavior as the most malicious possible, fully consciously, seriously harmful bad faith actor, knowingly assisting Kimi, Jamie, and possibly also others in attempting to completely destroy my life entirely wrongfully, is most likely reality, which also doesn't compromise my integrity or force me to have to reconsider my intimate prospects either. My feelings certainly don't change merely based on what Celine's behavior appears to suggest. Her real feelings towards me are amongst seriously complicated circumstances where there is a very obvious, serious lack of adequate clarity. Further, I believe my behavior is seriously capable of influencing her feelings towards me, and her behavior doesn't necessarily reflect an absolutely uncompromising or unchanging attitude and feelings towards me. I consider those things seriously relevant because I cannot be convinced to wait indefinitely or some lengthy arbitrary amount of time for something that might never even really happen, of Celine feeling and or behaving meaningfully differently towards me, and that's only even better reason she shouldn't be wasting time in providing truly meaningful clarity regarding these matters. If I had to try to guess how or why Janet might be involved and Celine might feel it's appropriate or necessary, and if I was to give them both the most charitable interpretation of their behavior I could possibly imagine, the only thing I could really think of is Celine perhaps feels inadequate, or for some reason seriously extremely insecure to date me by herself, and she assumes if I wanted to date two women at the same time for whatever reason, even if I could pick freely with no political considerations whatsoever, the other woman I'd want would also always have to be someone with a significant social media following. Perhaps they somehow eventually came to a point of assuming that I would ultimately be happy about it if they were entertaining narratives that I had some kind of secret obsession or attraction to Janet, that I for whatever reason didn't feel comfortable admitting to. Perhaps they thought that if I felt like it was a gesture of kindness or some kind of actual attempt at resolution of these matters, it might be something I'd consider fun or desirable or beneficial to me to indulge. I suppose I can try to understand why they would have been doing it, and that it's possibly not fundamentally malicious. Regardless, I do not find it appealing, and I have absolutely no desire or willingness to ever at all cooperate with it. Although I'm not trying to disrespect or antagonize Celine or Janet in holding my position, I would have to reject such a thing on principle. It would essentially be selling or abandoning my soul, and that is absolutely, unconditionally, absolutely unacceptable to me. Janet isn't someone I find physically unattractive. I also certainly wouldn't say she's as attractive as Kimi and Celine are to me, whether physically or otherwise. Janet is someone I would say is definitely well above average in terms of physical attractiveness, but I'm extremely selective with who I'd consider a serious intimate prospect. While I wouldn't say I consider it insulting to even suggest it's possible I would have wanted to date Celine and Janet at the same time if I was able to simultaneously date any two women in the entire world, it's also just not true. The only other person that I feel it makes any real sense to me for me to date alongside Celine, if I were to be dating two people simultaneously, would be Kimi. I don't consider it an insult or unideal that I've myself had to put some kind of direct, serious effort to prove my desire and worthiness of dating anyone I ultimately actually end up dating. I actually prefer and require it as such because then it actually makes sense to me and doesn't feel like compromising my soul somehow. I see Janet as completely non-viable for me to ever date in any arrangement, and that's not something I've ever been or can imagine I'd ever be particularly upset about. Purely in the interest of utmost thoroughly and potently dismantling any possible false narratives related to claims that my expressed desires towards Kimi and Celine are primarily or entirely political, rather than fully authentic, I will mention that if I theoretically absolutely had to pick someone other than Kimi or Celine to be sexually intimate with alongside one of them who isn't just the other, or to be sexually intimate with alongside both of them simultaneously, and I didn't need to consider politics at all in the decision, that person would be Chloe Chan Kin. Taking politics into consideration, she is utterly non-viable for such, and so is everyone else. There are multiple reasons why I do not and have never been able to see her as a serious intimate prospect. Her behavior has always been exceedingly unpleasantly dysfunctionally distant towards me. She has already extremely thoroughly demonstrated that it doesn't matter how much I wish things were different. The reality of her behavior has demonstrated that she is extremely deeply mentally ill and has genuinely received extremely sadistic satisfaction from making me suffer immensely and face serious social and legal difficulties over feelings she intentionally, selfishly, extremely maliciously left, exceedingly unacceptably unclear to me if ever really existed or were ever authentically healthy at all. There's absolutely nothing anyone can ever say or do at this point to ever meaningfully convince me otherwise. As far as I'm concerned, she has nobody she has any real place to blame for that but herself. I do not see any real possibility of her ever even seriously attempting to communicate anything to me through any means at all in good faith or with sincerely positive intentions towards me, and I most certainly have absolutely no desire or willingness to ever at all engage with any kind of communication from her, while knowing with utmost possible certainty that it's solely the result of extremely psychopathic tendencies she has to attempt to utterly eviscerate my existence for her selfish gain, fully consciously, knowingly, entirely at my expense, entirely against my consent. In case a serious issue is Celine and or Kimi being seriously confused about the details of what my intimate desires would be, in terms of specifically what kind of intimate sexual acts I would like to engage in person with someone I'm actually dating, independent of dating one or both of them and or anyone else, I see no real sense in going into extensive detail on that publicly. I firmly believe it's completely reasonable for me to assume that if that was really a problem, I would have already received direct communication from one or both of them that at least reasonably appears to be good faith and directly, explicitly, clearly demonstrates such being the case. Only then would I ever seriously consider if opening up about that privately to whoever's asking actually makes sense. The furthest I will mention about that is that it's not possible for anyone to have any real insight into that beyond whatever I've explicitly stated on this podcast. Anyway, the day after Jamie streamed.
Hi. Why did I say it like that? There's something in my eye. Hi, guys. Okay, I'm going to copy Daniel because he put his microphone on a knife. I should do that. But actually, I have to cook, so I probably can't do that. But yeah.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception related to the precise manner with which she begins her live streams, specifically in relation to her conscious intent to achieve concealed ulterior motives through concealed messaging to relevant parties, somehow assisting her in a manner she intentionally attempts to obscure as much as possible for as long as possible. Further, that such is likely, at least in part, achieved through her concealed passive-aggressive threats to cry in the future if she is not appeased somehow. Further, that such attempts to conceal her desire and or need to copy others in order to maintain and or expand her relevancy and influence, perhaps especially those she's somehow attempting to present some kind of romantic connection with no real consideration for that person's consent or awareness of the reality of what she's doing. Further, that such attempts to conceal her conscious intent to only ever even possibly admit it with any kind of sufficient clarity to the extent they have any real possibility figuring out after she's abused it so extensively that it's reached a point she's incapable of copying them, for whatever reason. At which point she's consciously attempting to force them to give her attention as she utilizes the intentional infliction of emotional distress she is causing in order to subversively validate false narratives she is consciously perpetuating about them.
I haven't done a cooking stream in a long time, and I can tell people want it, so yeah.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception related to what kind of content those that might, or perhaps by some understanding should, be watching her online activity would be particularly interested in or benefit from her creating, in order for her to engage in serious deception in relation to if certain individuals she presents herself as relevant to the lives of are even paying attention to her, or particularly care if she creates any kind of content at all ever again.
Amazon always doesn't send new. That's what I'm saying. I feel like they send me used stuff all the time, and I hate used stuff. But okay, like I have this thing where I don't know if it's my ADHD, but it's really bad, and I feel like it's gonna fuck me over for life. But I end up like getting sick of things really easily, and I like new novel things. So I was just starting to get the ick from all my regular cleaning supplies. So every time I smelled it, I would just like get the ick, and oh my god, I literally was like, guys, am I like Mary Jane Virgin right now? Because I had like pregnancy symptoms, but I'm not pregnant. Okay, I swear. And I was just like, am I like Jane the Virgin right now? Okay, but basically, like, I've been so sensitive to fragrances. It's insane. So I had to like buy a bunch of different stuff and like new fragrances. I'm not pregnant. I was just saying I was having really like a lot of pregnant symptoms, but no, I'm not pregnant. I mean, it's not possible. But I just got the fragrance ick. So I had to change up all my cleaning supplies.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her conscious awareness of her desire and inclination to pursue novelty in life in a seriously mentally ill manner that is reasonably foreseeable to cause permanent, irreversible, serious negative consequences to her. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie utilizing that deception to also engage in serious deception where she is consciously misrepresenting symptoms of what even she herself is demonstrating she in reality has serious reason to believe it's likely inaccurate to consider ADHD as if it is symptoms of her being pregnant, even despite her explicitly, blatantly stating it should not be at all possible for her to be pregnant. This demonstrates a pattern of her fully conscious involvement in serious deception, seriously, maliciously, egregiously misrepresenting the significance of her potentially being pregnant.
Your hair looks good today. Thanks. I got a haircut. It kind of looks like I have short hair. Low-key, should I cut my hair short? Like, I kind of like it. I mean, it's not short, guys, because look. That's long, right? But, like, I'm like, should I cut my hair short? Like, you guys can kind of imagine it if I, like, just have my front. I'm like, damn, should I cut my hair short? Yeah, go with the A haircut. How you have it right now is so nice. Yeah, maybe I'll just keep this then. Because you guys probably... A lot of guys like long hair. That's not short. No, I know, but what if I cut it like here or right here? I don't know. I'd probably crash out. I like the shorter layers in the front and we're good. Yeah, you should get a bob. Are you like praying for my downfall?
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to the significance of qualities of her hair and changes she's already decided to make, as well as might decide to make to it in the future, especially in order to engage in serious deception in relation to her supposedly respecting the gender identity of others.
I look pretty straight, thank you. I just have something in my eye. I don't know what it is, so you guys are gonna have to like manage me rolling my eyes.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception, where she is using concealed passive-aggressive threats of crying when people she wishes found her more pretty do not find her as pretty as she wishes they did. In order to achieve a subversive effect on others, she demands manage the consequences of her seriously deceptive behavior.
I'm in this like weird part of my life where I'm just like trying to figure out what to do with all the knowledge I have, or like it's like I'm like going through a crisis again. I'm like, I feel like we just have to like reinvent ourselves all the time, especially for me because I'm on the internet. So I'm always like, what now? I'm like, oh, what do I do? And it's like it's not as simple as like, oh, what am I passionate about? You know, like because I'm passionate about so many things, and my life is always changing. So I'm just like, huh.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her desire and attempts to obtain and utilize certain knowledge, especially as it correlates to her ultimately possibly ending up in a crisis that may necessitate her to reinvent herself due to her behavior over the internet, which perhaps puts the reality of what her passions are and why under what should be serious scrutiny.
So that it. Actually, I'll just stick it in my little. Okay, never mind. It's not opening. I give up so easily. I'm gonna get some garlic, and we will use.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception where she casually, unapologetically, consciously, much too quickly and easily abandons efforts that provide a clear, quick, easy, and thoroughly effective solution to issues she's facing.
It's just like kind of sad because you kind of grow up thinking like you can trust like the professionals, and like as you get older, you're like, damn, like you could just kind of assume, like I don't know if you guys know about it's like this concept called social loafing, and it's essentially like when you work in groups, it can be more. I mean, like as humans, we have to work in groups, and clearly, like we have these systems in place for a reason. But it's also like when you work in groups, it's easier for people to like not care as much about like the decisions they're making. And it's like statistically proven that if you add more people to like even a team or a project, like they're less responsible, and most people just care about their safety or protection, so they don't speak out as much. And that's how like groups tend to often make reckless or decisions that aren't great. And in hindsight, like if one person worked on it, they would probably make better decisions. But that's a lot of pressure for like one person to take on. Like someone else will do it. Yeah, exactly. So people really adopt that mindset, and it's like kind of sad. So I kind of like take that into mindset for like whatever I build. I'm like, I really can't have that mindset. Like whatever I build, the reason why when you build something on your own, it's so powerful. It's because you have control over it, and you like you decide how it goes. But that's why a lot of companies, like after they sell or like they lose, like the main person who created it leaves, like sometimes it won't do well unless the systems are really good. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just rambling. Bystander effect, yeah, and it's just like I think that's why there are people who are meant to be leaders, because the humans just automatically will go with the group. It's the saying, like 50 sheep, or what is it? 50 sheep saying something's wrong, or saying something's right doesn't make it right. You know, like in history, there's a lot of things that happened where no one will like take responsibility for it, but because it wasn't on one person's responsibility, it happened.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her knowledge, awareness, and the true impact and relevance of the consequences of a kind of herd mentality in correlation with her behavior. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie utilizing that deception to also engage in serious deception in relation to her utilization of concealed messaging, making passive-aggressive threats to cry in the future if others don't let her take full control, and full credit for building something that in reality she has been consciously and intentionally working with others to attempt to build. It specifically demonstrates to me personally that she has in reality long been fully conscious of the reality of how attempting to present a dispersed responsibility for the harm being inflicted on me across multiple individuals empowers her to attempt to endlessly perpetuate, preventing all those with any responsibility from ever having to actually take any accountability for their involvement, and that she's essentially been attempting to make herself seem deserving of being seen as some kind of leader through her doing essentially the bare minimum in order to attempt to maintain that seriously harmful dynamic where I'm the only one who's actually just experiencing an exclusively detrimental impact on my existence as a result. Further, it specifically demonstrates to me personally that Jamie in reality has long realized I truly do not depend on or need her at all for anything, and there's nothing she can really offer me to even try to actually negotiate for claiming even partial credit for things that in reality were done by me entirely on my own, which she is desperate to steal credit for in order to attempt to justify her fully conscious, serious involvement in seriously harmful behavior towards me.
No, I literally feel more like mother every day. I'm like, should I just have a kid early? But probably not. Having a baby is a huge thing. Did you guys see my friend Chloe is having a baby? It's so exciting. Oh my god. I'm gonna be an auntie. I'm gonna be an auntie, guys.
I will take this opportunity to reiterate that I am not, have never been, and will never be at all interested in, engaged in, pursuing, or even attempting to pursue any kind of romantic and or otherwise intimate involvement with the Chloe that Jamie is presumably explicitly mentioning in that clip. The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her supposedly possessing attributes of an authentically loving mother figure, and how that correlates to her connection with giving Chloe Chankin ever getting pregnant an egregiously inappropriate and misrepresented significance in correlation with my existence. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie utilizing that deception to also engage in serious deception, which ultimately serves to empower and embolden Chloe Chankin with vastly more influence over my existence, and in general than she ever at all could possibly truly deserve by any even remotely reasonable standard. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie utilizing that deception to also engage in serious deception, hiding the true extent of how unapologetically egregiously Jamie has been consciously, aggressively, intentionally inflicting emotional distress on me through such in a manner extremely deviously attempting to make me look exceptionally seriously, severely malicious, bad faith, and fraudulent for ever getting anywhere even close to recognizing such has been occurring and having the courage to adequately defend my integrity and dignity in response through any means necessary.
Which streamer have you enjoyed collabing the most with? What? I don't have any favorites. How could I ever have favorites?
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to giving preferential treatment to certain content creators she has collaborated with, especially in correlation with her actual ability to completely consistently provide them with that preferential treatment.
I wasn't sure like how good of a cook I was, but I do think like I can cook well. Would you ever make a cooking YouTube channel? Yes, I'm trying to do one right now, but it's taking some time. What does your week normally look like outside of streaming? So right now I'm working on a new project. and it's set to launch soon, but you guys won't know about it because it's gonna be like, it's like a behind the scenes thing, and then maybe later I'll market it. So every Monday and Tuesday I work on that, and I also work on just any like computer work Monday, Tuesday. So my second endeavor right now is on Monday and Tuesday, and I'm basically building something, and it's gonna be something that will be accessible to you guys. Like, you guys don't have to pay, but like, you guys won't need to pay for it. That's all I can really say for now. And it's something that's like, I hope it can grow bigger than me. So I'm working on something there, and then on Wednesdays and Thursdays I try to like film. Wednesdays and Thursdays I like to film content or videos or whatever, and then Fridays I like to edit, and then Sundays I like to stream, and then usually I have a day where like I just like take it off and stuff and cook. Can we distribute it for personal gain on our end? It should be helpful for you guys. It's something that will be helpful for you guys, and something that you can share with friends and family. And it's something that mixes every field of my knowledge into one thing.
The evidence suggests a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception, where she is egregiously misrepresenting my ability, desire, and willingness to tolerate or embrace public perception without any help from her or any of her associates. Further, it suggests a pattern of Jamie utilizing that deception to also engage in serious deception that attempts to subversively control and take credit for me ever building any kind of meaningful or significant audience. Further, it suggests a pattern of Jamie utilizing such deception to also engage in serious deception intended to guarantee I can never grow that audience larger than hers.
So how I like to go about it is like, I like to think about, okay, like if I was spiritual and emotional and like really not thinking about what this means logically versus like what I think of it logically, I balance both of them, and I think like, what do I like better? Like, what serves me more? What makes me like, what aligns with my purpose or who I am? And then I just choose that one. Like, it doesn't even matter. You never know what's going to be true. Like, life is just like, you don't know what's going to be true. But yeah, I think like, as someone who is like, I'm very open to both like logical and spiritual, I like to find a good balance, because that's probably, it's the most probable, like realistically, but also you have to measure like how much the truth or like objective facts actually serve you. Like, I think when it comes to health or finances or I don't know, like building something, like obviously like the logic is going to matter more, but when it comes to like happiness in life or your relationships or your creative endeavors, I think it's a bit like almost like ineffective to put such a logical or objective perspective on it. Some things are meant to be spiritual and some things are meant to be logical. That's how I feel.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to what is truth and how appropriate her behavior is in correlation with it, especially in correlation with her fully consciously choosing to unapologetically blatantly ignore objective truth to literally whatever extent she considers most convenient and selfishly personally beneficial to her. I'm not saying what she said there is completely out of touch with reality conceptually, but presenting seemingly serious rhetoric explaining a deeply fundamental interpretation of and response to objective reality within the context of Jamie's Twitch streams, which are implicitly intended for entertainment purposes only, particularly considering the additional context provided by this podcast, demonstrates Jamie having an exceptionally, extremely severely irresponsible, unreasonable, unreasonably foreseeably seriously harmful attitude and behavior towards these matters. And then there's a pattern that was present throughout the stream, not even 20 minutes in.
Don't fall for the scams, guys. Don't fall for the scams. All right, so $50 more for the name? No, legitimately, I'm like, what in the world? I feel like I talk so much, my lipstick just like runs out. I can't make a rent taker buy a home. That's what I'm saying. And like, this is why like I'm so passionate about bringing like more, I guess, like elevated experiences through other cuisines.
About 10 minutes later.
Australia mentioned. You're in Australia? Oh, Australia. I've been meeting a lot of Australians in my life. Yeah. Yeah. She just said Australia is mid. I mean, I didn't say that.
About an hour and a half later.
Air filter near the trash can sus. Wait, why is that sus? I don't want my trash to smell. I don't want my trash to make my place smell. So I put it near my trash. That's weird. What the hell is going on?
About 15 minutes later.
It's good for me to know what you guys want to know because I do want to like create more educational resources for people. But to be fair, honest, I've been in cooking for so long. I don't really know like what people don't know. It's like when you listen to like a tech bro talk about things and he just assumes that everyone knows what like Scale AI is or like OpenAI and what like a LLM is. Like a lot of people don't know what the hell that is, but like they talk as if everyone knows. It's because like they've been in that world for so long they can't even fathom that people don't know.
About 5 minutes later.
No, there's no VOD because I'm not allowed to. So like honestly guys, I'm not usually the type to be like, hey, pay to like do a watch party with me, but this is the only way I'm allowed to like watch with you guys, and there won't be a VOD. So that's basically not allowed. So if you guys want to join my watch party, it's every Thursday. And yeah.
About 10 minutes later.
Yeah, anyways. How's life, guys? How's I don't know. What should we talk about while we wait for this stew? Life be lifing. Are there any games you guys are watching or playing?
About an hour later.
I don't crush a lot, okay? People just have a crush on me. I won't lie, like I don't know if it's possible for me to get my heart broken because I just don't like red flag guys, and any guy that I talk to like falls in love with me, so that's why I just don't like talk to many guys because I care about them and like I don't want them to like fall in love with me and then like I care, like I'm not gonna lead them on. I'm not that type of person. And there's no benefit for me to like lead someone on, so like I don't have any guy friends. So like I have like some guy friends, but like most of my friends are just girls because like yeah. Anyways. But it's not because of me as a person. It's just like literally like I think like guys like that they like a specific type of energy or whatever. I don't know. I'm definitely not a heartbreaker. Like, well, like, yes, I am, but not in like a bad, like not in like a purposeful way. Like genuinely, like I think like guys can imagine me in their life, but I can't, like they can imagine me being the one for them, but like it's hard to get to know me. Like I'm just like I'm very like weirdly I'm like really extroverted and stuff, or like I'm like popular or whatever, but I'm honestly very like everything in my head is difficult to understand. Like not a lot of guys can understand what's going on in there, so and they like want to understand but they can't, No, I don't have a god complex. I am actually so like I'm not very confident right now. I have so many insecurities. I don't have a god complex. But it's not really possible for me to get my heart broken because I will get my heart broken after like a long-term relationship, like when I'm like really invested, but I will never get my heart broken within the span of like 6 months, because for me it's just like, I feel like that type of heartbreak has to come with like an expectation almost, and I just don't. I'm too realistic to ever get heartbroken. And like I've never met a guy and been like, oh my god, like maybe this is the one, and maybe like he would be so good for me, and he would be like I always judge it by the connection on its own, and I don't think too much of it before it is what it is. And I think a lot of idealistic people will get their heart broken because they're idealizing something that doesn't exist yet. So for me, like I don't think like me being a heartbreaker or not getting my heart broken is like a god complex thing. It's just like I'm very realistic. I'm just like very realistic.
About 10 minutes later, which was also about 10 minutes before Jamie ended the stream, Jamie applied lip product on her lips a total of 9 times within a 4.5-hour stream, in most cases less than half an hour apart. The evidence demonstrates the pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her application of lip products on her lips. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to the significance of her applying glossy lip products to her lips. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her male friends. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her purposefully attempting to be, and possibly in some cases actually being, a heartbreaker. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Jamie engaging in serious deception in relation to her having a god complex, particularly through attempting to misrepresent her insecurities as if they are evidence she does not have a god complex. What this demonstrates to me personally is that Jamie fully consciously has engaged in serious deception, extremely egregiously, maliciously abusing my authentic attraction to Kimi in order to enable and facilitate Jamie egregiously misrepresenting how I'd personally not feel heartbroken at all by Jamie rejecting me or pushing away any prospect of intimate involvement with me in order for her to personally benefit in multiple specific ways, including, but possibly not limited to, in order to empower her to have more to talk about, meet more new people, reduce the overall general suspiciousness of her behavior, learn information relevant to her goals others don't know, actively monetize her audience, apply pressure on others to reveal how their life is going, and seriously deceive others that people Jamie has a crush on supposedly actually are the ones that have a crush on her. And then 2 days later, Kimi streamed.
Well, just in case you're not able to type in chat, that's okay. You can go back to doing what you have to do. I will not distract you. Look at this, 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 look at this. Hey, 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 hey. Are you paying attention? Look. Follow the finger, follow the finger, follow the finger, follow the finger. Hey, pay attention. Hey. Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? I'm in one ear, now I'm in your other ear, now I'm in your other ear. Hello? Let me just go ahead and look into the computer screen to see what you're doing. Oh, you got answer number 4 wrong. By the way, you have to check that answer.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to her supposedly not wanting to be or actually being distracting, while in reality being fully conscious of intentionally attempting to be as distracting as she feels at all reasonably possible. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Kimi utilizing that deception to intentionally inflict emotional distress.
Wait. What area is 1 hour ahead of the East Coast? It's not Europe, right? That's too far. Is it somewhere in Canada? Yeah, honestly, if you're not living in America, you basically don't even exist. So, you must be living in the Atlantic Ocean if you're 1 hour ahead of the East Coast. You must just live in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm just kidding. That was literally how a lot of Americans were raised to think without social media. We were raised to think that America was like the only thing that mattered. And we were raised to think that everybody who existed out of America didn't matter. I think things are different now with social media, but before social media, my millennials know that when we were raised, we're like, America is the best. America is the best, and everywhere else sucks. And then social media happened, and we realized America is basically a third world country.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to her perception of individuals not residing in the United States even truly existing. Further, it demonstrates a pattern of Kimi utilizing that deception to enforce her maintaining an extremely spoiled attitude towards the privileges that the country she lives in provides for her.
That's exactly why I have 10 unfinished crochet plushies stuffed in my closet. That is so relatable, girl. Girl as in girl. Not assuming your gender or anything in 2026. That'd be crazy. Girl is correct. Okay. Thank you for confirming. Girl, yeah, assuming gender in 2026, crazy. I live in Los Angeles. I am too woke for that. Although not everyone in LA is woke. Okay.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to the relevancy of Jamie to indirect general statements Kimi makes publicly, particularly in relation to Kimi and Jamie assuming the gender of others.
Oh my gosh, so cute. Oh my god, they're so cute. Oh my god. Wow. ASMR Monday has evolved into me doing whatever the heck I do in my spare time and then showing you guys. But isn't that what content creation is?
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to her efforts to evolve the fundamental nature of her content creation career from an actual job into her basically just saying or doing whatever she feels like while maintaining the same kind of authority or perception of her putting in a similar effort.
Wait, it's Monday? Well, I mean, I call these streams ASMR Monday, but I mean, even if it's Tuesday, I still call it ASMR Monday. I do have something I want to do after this, actually. I found a game I wanted to play. An ASMR game. I mean, I can barely call it a game. It's not really a game. But I saw it on my TikTok. And I'm like, I want to do that. So, it's gonna be a surprise though. We can do it after I finish my frogs. After I finish my little frogs. And yeah, this is not a sponsored game. I just saw it on my TikTok and I'm like, ooh, that might be fun to do for ASMR Monday, except it's Tuesday.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to the significance of her attempting to establish some kind of schedule for her streams, in correlation with her efforts attempting to revert present circumstances to more closely reflect past circumstances, somehow in a generally heavily concealed manner.
Ouch. Oh my gosh, that lava hurts so much. Yeah, see, the lava takes out half of your health. Okay, I made fun of the people. I made fun of that one kid that died on the early levels of lava because that lava barely hurts, but this lava hurts a lot. Oops. I feel like when I play games, I troll being toxic. I I'm not actually toxic, you guys. I don't actually, like, you know what I mean? Like, it just comes out. It just comes out. No, I swear, I'm not actually toxic. But when I play games, it's just part of, you know, the banter. it's part of the banter. I'm just kidding.
The evidence suggests a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to the correlation between her playing video games and the erosion of her mental health.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. This is not what I thought I was going to do with my life in my 30s, but here we are. Here we are indeed. And I would not want it any other way. What a time to be alive.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to the accuracy of outcomes she was predicting or expecting within certain time periods.
I hope you guys found that relaxing a little bit. If you guys enjoyed some ASMR gaming, we'll have to find some other things to play.
The evidence demonstrates a pattern of Kimi engaging in serious deception in relation to the significance of her applying glossy lip products to her lips. Kimi decides to apply glossy lip product about 5 minutes before ending her stream, which doesn't really make sense unless it was intended to achieve heavily concealed ulterior motives. The totality of evidence suggests the existence of several additional topics or areas where Kimi and Jamie have also engaged in serious deception, which has likely had some kind of harmful impact on my existence. I have never consented to any extent of any at all relevant misrepresentations of me through those instances of deception either. The totality of evidence suggests Kimi and Jamie have engaged in serious deception in relation to their fundamental intent, being to knowingly, maliciously, entirely non-consensually, and detrimentally force me to endlessly tolerate being severely detrimentally subjected to having to guess and navigate around everything they ever have and ever might in the future engage in serious deception in relation to, in order for me to even simply be able to function or live any kind of at all truly meaningful, fulfilling, pleasant, or worthwhile existence. This only strengthens the factual basis upon which I would potentially pursue formally filing civil and possibly also criminal litigation against them, perhaps especially since Kimi has basically started blatantly adopting Hassan tier politics at this point, where she's doing things like calling the United States a third world country as she basks in luxury and spoiled freedom she wouldn't have been able to enjoy in any other country how she is. I feel it especially pertinent to mention something else I saw recently.
As someone who's been threatened with lawsuits by Hassan, although the more annoying part of that was him wanting me beaten, arrested, and his fans wanting me executed and trying to harass me, right, by filing false reports. That was probably more concerning than the lawsuit, I'm going to be honest.
Singapore has the highest rate of state-sponsored executions on the planet. The country carried out 11 executions in 2022, 5 in 2023, 8 in 2024, and reached a 22-year high of 17 executions in 2025. Oh my God, you're about to get caned, big dog. If you know like a good Singaporean lawyer, something like that, it'd be nice to try and figure out if I could pursue litigation of sorts.
Didn't really want to die and get guillotined or executed. That is not a fan of that, actually. It's a little lame for me.
It's upsetting to me that Pegasus suddenly started getting attacked like that by Hassan. After my last release, Pegasus is literally just showing clips of Hassan's behavior and making pretty non-controversial statements while trying to be entertaining. I don't know if anything I'm doing is meaningfully ultimately affecting Hassan's behavior and decisions, but I certainly never intended to cause Pegasus problems. I definitely was not trying to get Hassan to do what he did there. It's not like I'm trying to be super good friends with Pegasus or something, but I don't feel like I have a problem with him either. From what I see, he utilizes calling himself apolitical to also mean nonpartisan to any official government electoral party. I can appreciate that he has made it easy for me to decide on whether or not Hassan is someone I feel deserves my support. If Hassan is actually so mad at Pegasus because of what I said, that only really shows me how pathetic Hassan really is, that he won't try to actually challenge me on anything, and he instead goes and attacks people I'm inclined to look at much more favorably than him. For Pegasus, he's covered Hassan so much and in such a manner where he probably can't reasonably sue Hassan for intentional infliction of emotional distress for Hassan calling him out like that. But if Hassan did something like that to me, blatantly publicly telling his goons to come harass me and try to make me fear for my life for criticizing him, I would be heavily inclined to sue him. Seriously. And that clown probably knows it, and that's why he cowers away from actually calling me out. The worst thing you can really criticize me for is basically just being really mean to individuals I keep demonstrating, have, from ever since long before I made any threats towards any of them, been actively engaged in trying to completely devastate my dignity and destroy my life, and lead to my untimely death in real life, simply for me being who I am unapologetically. Individuals who I continue to prove have definitely done much, much worse to me than anything I've ever done to them. And there's actually more I want to say about Hassan too, if we're really going to go there. There's something else I saw a little before this insanity of Hassan attacking Pegasus.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really enjoying the Kaya's revenge arc. I'm telling you, all of this stemmed from Dogtober 7. If you didn't shock your dog, none of this would be happening. That propelled you into normie sphere, into mainstream sphere, and every apolitical person was like, fuck this guy.
This massive degenerate Hassan openly, regularly supports multiple state-designated terrorist organizations, advocates for political and mass violence, murder, theft, and other crimes, demonstrates serious tendencies towards racism, sexism, transphobia, and other discrimination, and most people only know or care that he exists because slop tubers keep repeating that he used a shock collar on his dog in an oppressive manner. This kind of thing is why I confidently say society is seriously pathetic, and it's certainly not because of people like Pegasus. You don't have to be a passionate force against all the horrible things Hassan, as I always say, lying as OP Piker supports. But if you're going to have a problem with someone as unapologetically heinous as him, you should at least have your priorities straight and have a distaste towards him for the proper reasons that actually make him so harmful overall to his followers, his associates, the positive aspects of government, and society at large. Otherwise, you're just exposing yourself for being a seriously mentally ill, massively virtue-signaling loser, and people like you are the exact reason why he's able to so comfortably coast through grifting so egregiously for so long, while making a mockery of the entire media landscape and basically society as a whole. If anything, Pegasus calling Hassan out like he has shows to me that Pegasus is probably a better person than most of these creators on the internet across all platforms. It goes deeper for me than just a general ethical thing, too, though, I'll be honest. I don't agree with animal abuse, and I believe it's reasonable to conclude that it's quite likely Hassan has used a shock collar on his dog in an overall unethical manner. But seeing how Hassan has gotten so much attention for something as ultimately inconsequential as that, more than anything, it just makes me livid that there seems to be nothing really stupid and ultimately inconsequential that I could do like that to force people to stop acting like I'm dead or want to die or deserve to die. For all the seriously stupid and I'd argue indefensible things Hassan has done, honestly, I feel like letting the internet see him shock his dog there was probably the smartest thing he's ever done in his entire life. Apparently even making extremely politically sophisticated justifiable threats to multiple prominent online influencers in an extremely serious manner doesn't really achieve anything productive in a society so corrupted seemingly beyond help. I had to do it in a manner that's actually consistent and coherent with my overall worldview, and I believe can actually be effectively thoroughly defended with the context truly acknowledged adequately, which made the document the Canadian government called a manifesto in obvious need of politically sophisticated analysis. Destiny has always came off to me as vastly more inclined to such than Hassan, but instead of Destiny handling things in good faith, he made a mockery of my existence, and I instead got slammed with an insane amount of extremely subversive politics from the Canadian and United States government that I certainly wouldn't be surprised if Destiny substantially contributed to, even after he tried to clown on me directly publicly back in 2019, while he's in effect helped Hassan spread severe politically induced brain rot. If these bad faith losers think I'm going to want or have to support their politics or political parties after such egregious mistreatment, they need to wake up to reality. I don't have to suck up to politically obsessed, blatantly massive degenerates just because I find Kimi and Salim extremely sexually attractive. Not Destiny, not Hassan, not anyone. And I'm not going to expect Pegasus to defend me when he probably doesn't even know I exist, definitely doesn't understand how I think and what I've been through, and definitely isn't a major contributor to the harm I've faced regardless. I know I'm being very fair, both to people involved and people not involved. If I'm really going to just continue to face what becomes increasingly unapologetic and blatant, generally seriously unreasonable, irresponsible, and increasingly psychotically malicious, grossly inadequate recognition of the reality of these matters, nobody ever has any right to even attempt to claim I sold or abandoned my soul in pursuing, formally filing for litigation against anyone I end up deeming it appropriate to sue and or press criminal charges against. I don't care even if you're a government official of any kind in any country. You are absolutely, completely in the wrong for ever at all supporting that kind of position against someone like me, and I will make sure you regret it if you do not give me the respect I deserve. I have never taken out a life insurance policy. I have never consented to anyone else taking a life insurance policy out on me. I know there must be evidence to support that someone has significantly contributed to the fraudulent taking out of a life insurance policy under my name without me knowing and without my consent, fraudulently producing relevant paperwork without me knowing and without my consent, faking my death without me knowing and without my consent, collecting that policy without me knowing and without my consent, attempts to make me commit suicide and have me assassinated to cover it all up, and to this day has not been held at all meaningfully or adequately accountable for their actions. I've extensively expressed my distress in connection with significantly influential public figures engaging in seriously unreasonable and irresponsible behavior for many years now. I've tried more expressive language. I've tried more measured language. I've demonstrated severity to the extent of credible capability and warranting of procedural escalation into formal civil and likely ultimately even criminal litigation. And to this day, nobody has been held at all meaningfully or adequately accountable for their participation in behavior demonstrated to involve conscious coordination and contribution to serious criminal activity inflicted on me entirely to my detriment and entirely against my consent. Instead of any meaningful recognition of anything I've said on this podcast, I continue to be treated like I'm dead or I've ever consented to or deserved having my death faked or for me to actually get murdered. I have no real or meaningful indication whatsoever that any serious or meaningful investigation has been done in relation to multiple crimes. The reality of my life circumstances serve as evidence I've been victim to, and I continue to feel serious concern for my safety, liberty, and reputation, which all seem and feel actively and aggressively constantly under attack entirely wrongfully. I had to serve an over 1 year jail sentence for behavior that should have been seen as either performative and for entertainment and shock value, or extensively, seriously, critically evaluated in good faith in attempt to mitigate more serious harm in the future, and had any incarceration associated with it very carefully considered. Threats or harassing type behavior normally only gets you a 1-month sentence, especially for first offenses. But I instead got more time than most likely would for dealing most drugs in significant quantities, or many other serious crimes that actually produce meaningful benefit for the criminal doing them. Not only did releasing that document not benefit me at all, it actually only made me more sad and angry and made my life more difficult and miserable. I've had to deal with increased scrutiny that's in reality utterly unwarranted. I've had to deal with physical violence from unhinged federal inmates waiting to be transferred, simply because I refuse to ever engage in any kind of sexual intimacy with men. I've encountered countless near-death experiences, and I continue to face risk of potential further incarceration I obviously don't want or deserve, all because I insist on defending my integrity and dignity in the most mature, reasonable manner possible at every point, and I'm not the loser everyone seems to so extremely desperately wish I was. I only face increased convictions that this all is the direct result of primarily all those I explicitly named in the hits chapter in the document the Canadian government called a manifesto, who continue to this day to seriously harm me, I would assert very much knowingly so, and pretend like what they're doing is somehow reasonable, even despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary clearly existing. For any entity considering my usage of stronger and at times threatening language unreasonable or inappropriate given true context and scope of relevant harm inflicted on me, I consider such entity behaving in extreme bad faith and with extreme bias entirely unfavorable to me, in a manner which should be considered entirely knowingly against my consent and to my detriment across all domains. I unambiguously and unconditionally completely retract what I said while pleading guilty in court years ago. I am not sorry at all for creating or releasing that document, and I explicitly refute the claim that any of it was copied from the internet, as the synopsis for the associated criminal charges so grossly inaccurately claimed. I wrote it all myself, and nobody except me deserves any credit for writing any of it.